Hi, good evening or good afternoon, everybody. And it's a whole new network here that we're working on. And I got the same digs, same little office studio that I have, but it's a whole new network. You're listening to the United Public Radio Network, FM 105.3 and 107.7 from beautiful New Orleans. And this show is called Strange Reality with Dave Emmons and the producer, Michelle DeRocha. She's a great lady and nominated for top female podcaster, I must add to that. And she's really working with me and helping me out. I'm taking baby steps in this bigger network here, and everybody knows me from Facebook. And you also know my guest that I'm going to bring on here just in a minute after we get through all this. But pick up my books. What do they want? Senseless Wars and Conflicts, and also the new ones coming out, Angels and Supernatural Beings. That book will be out really soon. Okay, now the guest that I'm having, he was on Facebook, and everybody liked him on Facebook. And that's why I wanted him to do an inaugural show with me. He's my buddy. He's a friend. We have other little things on the side too with his spirituality that's really intense. So this is Dr. Lani. He is an aerospace engineer, computational scientist, Ph.D, research team manager in the top university in Belgium. He has been working 23 years in developing computational models and the software to simulate hypersonic flows around space vehicles, magnetic shielding technology, solar plasma, space weather phenomena with European and US programs, co-authoring 90 plus scientific papers. And also Dr. Lani's passion for space began in Italy. He's actually from Italy. He's in Belgium working there as a rocket scientist. I can actually say that. He's a rocket scientist. So, Michelle asked me earlier, said, will he know how to navigate this new StreamYard and this new network that we're just now starting together? I said, Michelle, he's a rocket scientist. I said, this guy's smart. He's not only smart, but a nice, great guy, and very spiritual. And he's had close encounters with the UFOs in 1983, and he's had more sightings and countless paranormal experiences, and we'll be talking about again and getting into that there. He has Stargate meditation, in which he does with another friend of ours. Stars is her name, and her real name is Sarah. But she's got a program of her own, Stargate Meditations, and you can see her on also Facebook. Well, actually, they work with higher chakras, activations, healings, past life memories, OBE, and meditations, and also in the Noetic Sciences. And actually, Dr. Lani has been involved in a lot of things that it creates a lot of thinking, and he's a thinker, and he's a great guy. Dr. Lani, welcome to this new show, buddy. Nice to have you.
Thanks so much for having me in this show.
Yeah. You got anything to add about the intro here? You want to say anything about yourself before, or is there anything new that I haven't heard? I know we communicate quite a bit. There might be something new going on.
Well, from the professional side, I think you gave quite a good introduction. I probably wouldn't add much more, other than maybe in 2010, I also worked at NASA Ames and Stanford as a postdoc. And then I came back to Belgium, and then now I'm working at university in the Center for Plasma Astrophysics in one of the top European universities. And some recent news is that I got the opportunity to write the foreword for a book of an Italian journalist. She basically worked together with another Italian journalist of a major newspaper, and in this book they cover a wide range of, let's say, paranormal phenomena and UFO related experiences. They speak about reincarnation, near-death experiences, abductions, contact with extraterrestrials, with spirits, and so on and so forth. So I got the chance to talk to her. She used to be, one of those making the news on TV on one of the main TV channels, and also she organizes an annual UFO Congress in Switzerland and I'll probably join the next one in October. But yeah, so she asked me, she shared my story. We had a chat of 3 hours and a half, and then she said, I would like you to write the foreword for my new book, which I did, and now the book is in the hand of the editor. Unfortunately, for the moment, it's only in Italian. I hope it's so successful that then it can be translated, because it really covers a lot of the stuff that I have experienced myself. So
okay, you open up a can of worms, Dr. Lani. I might ask you for a foreword in my new book. So,
yeah, well,
yeah,
at any time.
we know each other, but I know if you weren't so busy, you'd be writing books on UFOs and also spirituality and meditation. I know you're into that very deep. And let's start off with your UFO experiences. And we have an hour show, but you've got so much information. I want you to get in everything that you possibly can. But let's start off with how you got involved with UFOs from you're a scientist, and then you get involved in UFOs. That's not strange, because a lot of astronauts and other scientists who get involved in UFOs and research. So that kind of ties together. But I want to hear how you got started. I think everybody else does, Dr. Lani.
Sure. Yeah, actually, for me, it worked the opposite way. My first UFO encounter is what drove me on the path to become a space engineer. So my first encounter was actually in 1983. I was in Italy at the seaside with my parents. We were standing on the balcony during the evening. It was around the 15th of August. And then suddenly, an object appears in front of us out of nowhere. The object was originally looking like a metallic, glassy kind of. But then as soon as I focused my eyes on the object started spinning at an incredible RPM, almost like a flying turbine. And then it started glowing, probably because there were some, I don't know, super high currents flowing on the surface of the vehicle. So it ionized the air. And so while spinning, it was basically looking like a spinning top, let's say, but with yellow plasma color. And then while spinning, also it shrank in size progressively till it disappeared while emitting a flash of light. And the object was small, maybe 4 or 5 feet. It was standing at about 45 feet from the ground, because it was at the level of the third floor on the building, and it was about 30 feet in front of us. So I'm not talking about a strange light in the sky or something that I could really see from very close. And so it's an experience that you cannot easily forget, but I actually did. And then 4 or 5 years later, I basically was talking to an uncle who is actually the brother of my mother. And he was describing a UFO encounter that he had in the same apartment in the same summer with his wife. So basically, they were there about a couple of weeks after we were there. He was really staying there while we were only visiting that night. And then, he was looking at the sky, and suddenly he sees an object arriving. In his case, it was like a dome with a disc under it, with a lot of windows, and from which he could see like beams of light of different colors. And he called the wife. They both saw it for at least 30, 45 seconds. Then the object started rotating very fast. It became a ball of light and sped up like a bullet. And so basically, after he told me this experience, which in his case was also associated with some sort of hallucination or vision, if you want, during the night. So both he and his wife, in different circumstances, like she during dream time and he while waking up, had the impression of seeing a face of a humanoid with long hair, but completely made of light, with this hair that were like floating, almost like made of fire. And when, let's say, comparing their experiences in the morning, said, oh, wow, I was waking up and I saw this face for a fraction of a second on the wall. And she was like, I saw something that looked like Jesus Christ made of fire in my dreams. So, they had some sort of encounter. So once he told me that, I told my mother, you remember, we also saw something in that summer. And then I got hooked into UFO, aliens, and whatever was paranormal.
Right. You take a different, I heard you say something like ionized air. And that's not the typical person on the street. Even myself, I didn't know what ozone smell was until later on in life, but that's what I smelled when I was only 14. But I didn't know until later. But you're a scientist, so you make a couple of comments about your sightings that other people don't observe or feel. What was the ionized air all about, Dr. Lani?
I mean, when you have high currents, they basically can trigger a chemical reaction in the air that separates the ions from the electrons, and also so basically the high current produces heating, and this heating is strong enough to create this ionization, or let's say dissociation of the air in ions and electrons. And
does it have an odor? Does it have an odor to it, Dr. Lani?
Does it what?
Does it have an odor? Can you smell it?
Well, I don't know. I don't remember. I guess if you're very, very close, but I don't remember to smell anything.
Okay.
Maybe. But
yeah. After that incident, then you went on and you had other experiences, and you mentioned that some abduction experience that you had. Let's go into that too.
Sure, because actually that's the experience that came next, but it came in in between 1999 and 2000. I don't know exactly because I didn't keep a record of this specific occurrence. But so I was during my last year of university, and for 3 nights, not in a row, but within a short period of time, maybe a few weeks, I always had the same experience. So I was waking up in the middle of the night, completely paralyzed. I was feeling almost like I was floating, and then I would feel this very intense vibration throughout all my body, almost if I was in the middle of a very high frequency, I don't know, shaking like for an earthquake. But my body was not moving; it was just internal, and also I was hearing a very high pitched sound in both my ears, almost like the drill of a dentist. But imagine that the drill of the dentist keeps on spinning and reaching higher and higher and higher frequencies. So I got in panic, and I started praying, and the experience immediately stopped. The second time, I didn't have any idea what was that. So the second time, same reaction. I mean, let's say the experience was so intense that it was really difficult not to get scared. But after the second experience, I actually started researching a bit on internet. It was not as powerful as now, but I could find some information about people saying that when their astral body was detaching from the physical body, they would feel a similar, like a high-pitched sound and vibration. I also found somebody talking about abductions, but in the case of abductions, everybody was saying they were seeing beings, and I didn't see anything. I was like completely just feeling something very, very weird. It happened again. This time I tried not to panic and hoping to control the experience and maybe see where I could get, but the experience stopped. And then, later on in 2005, 2006, I was already in Belgium, and I got again the same experience. And again, this time I try not to panic, and I try to control it somehow. Say, okay, let's see. I don't do anything. Let's see how far it gets. But it stopped almost immediately. But I didn't really know what happened, and I didn't think too much about it. Then,
since you study consciousness and spirituality, and you get into the meditation Stargate thing, I learned a lot from you about that stuff. But we need to make those connections. You're saying that some of these people saw some being and you didn't. Do they implant or send these subliminal messages through our consciousness to show what they are, who they are, Dr. Lani?
Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I think, I mean, basically you have some people who are probably abducted really in the physical plane. So, and some other people, for some other people, maybe they just take like the energy or astral body and they do something with it. So they have this kind of ability. So when you see something, you never can say, unless you can touch it, you can never say if it's a real, I don't know, entity, or if it's just a holographic projection that they project in your mind. So, but of course, there are people who had experiences in which they were touched by this being. There were, I don't know, object inserted or implants inserted. So that was not my case. At least I have no memory of that. And yeah, it was not that traumatic.
Now, we speak of consciousness, Dr. Lani, and you know a lot about that. And they say you have to have your consciousness at a high level to communicate with these beings or these dimensional beings. Could you explain to us about that, how the consciousness connects with the other beings?
Yeah, so for what I understand, basically, each of us works a bit like an antenna, constantly broadcasting and receiving some signals at certain frequencies. Each emotion that you feel is associated to some vibrations. Of course, you know, if you are in a state of joy, in a state of gratitude, love, unconditional love, and so on, you are vibrating higher, so to speak. While if you are in depression, in fear, in, I don't know, feeling anger or jealousy, you are at a lower vibration. So what happens is that in this physical plane, I mean, and this everybody experiences it. Sometimes when you are in a certain state, you attract people of the same. Like you are, or you attract situations that trigger that kind of emotion. But that also you have to consider that what we broadcast it in a frequency range which is more than the one that we can observe. So actually, we broadcast also in other dimensions, and there are beings that are attracted to you according to the vibration at which they resonate. So if you are in fear, in anger, if you have suicidal thoughts, for instance, you will attract entities which really vibrate very low, some sort of demonic entities. But there, you know, there are beings that are sort of not incarnated, like demons, so to speak. But there are also entities which are incarnated, but whose body is actually vibrating at different frequencies than ours. And so, and of course, if you are in a positive state, when you want to connect to good ones, to benevolent entities, you need to work on yourself to try to stay, to have, let's say, a clean energy and positive thoughts and gratitude. And so in this case, if you seek connection, then there is a chance that they will respond. And of course, meditation is something that helps you in achieving this kind of more, let's say, controlled, balanced state. And actually, that's also how I managed to connect at a certain moment. After having a bunch of experiences, I was like, I would really like to try to trigger a connection. And yeah, I tried with hypnosis, with past life regressions, and I tried also with different, also sound healing and some other practices like Reiki, receiving, not practicing myself. And then I got into meditation. It was in and out, with trying a lot of different things. And then, yeah, at a certain moment, I realized that I created this connection and I could maintain. And I was getting messages, I was seeing beings, I received a healing in one of my first contacts. And then I started doing meditations to, let's say, to help others, having the same experience.
Could you tell us, Dr. Lani, what beings you saw and what type of abduction? There's 3 types of abductions. They come by your bedside, they do some test frequencies, and then they take you physically, they take you spiritually, energy-wise, and they leave your body there cold, and they take you to another dimension. Third way is that they take you on board ship. So you've had abductions, but where do you think that was more of a spiritual energy type taking you to another parallel universe or dimension? And what did you see? What did you see?
Okay, so the thing is that I got some other experiences, like I had some other UFO encounter that I basically triggered by asking for a contact in my head, and it manifested within a few minutes from that. And so these together with other situations that I had basically led me to try to understand this. And what I did is I had an appointment with a psychic in Los Angeles. I was following this psychic who is called Elizabeth April, She does. She basically reads your Akashic records, so she sees past lives and other things. She reads your energy field. So she was the first one that actually told me that what happened, in this scenario in which I had sleep paralysis was actually some sort of abduction. She called it like energy atonement. And so basically my astral body was taken somewhere and they were energizing it. They were upgrading the DNA for something that would come later on. But at the time, she couldn't tell me who did it. Actually, this information came to me later on. Once I was already able to connect on my own and I had already contacts, I did another session with another YouTube lady that I was following, that I felt that she could give me some interesting information. And actually, one of the things that she told me, even if I didn't tell anything about my abduction experiences, she said, you have been abducted by Arcturians since you were a child. And at that point, I was like, yeah, now it makes sense. I finally know who did it. I don't remember any of this abduction when I was a child, but it's hard to believe that they started abducting me when I was 25 years old. So probably every time my memory was completely wiped away, And Arcturians are rather benevolent species. They're not like some of the Greys,
reptilian, yeah.
Yeah, and another interesting thing is my connection to the Arcturians, because one of the first time that I connected by myself during meditation, after a series of interesting experiences that maybe I will go into, but the first time I connected on my own while meditating in a park. So what I saw on one side were a group of souls that were appearing like having a green energy, and then I saw a writing under called like Pleiadians, and then on the other side I saw a blue group of a group of blue beings, and I saw Arcturians. And then I had heard before about Arcturians, but I didn't know that I had any connection with them, while I knew I had a connection with Pleiadian because from multiple sources. And so this fact that then later on I discovered that Arcturians were the one that actually took my astral body and gave me those experiences, for me was a sort of like connecting the dots. But
what was your physiological symptoms? I mean, I was frozen 6 times in 6 years, and I was just deeply frozen. I didn't know anything. So when they take your energy, since you're a scientist, you might be able to answer. You have answered some things for me, and since you know about this, that when they take your energy and your spirit, your body will go cold for a while, wouldn't it, Dr. Lani?
I don't know. I cannot really give an answer about that. I didn't feel cold. In my case, it was just a strong vibration, but I couldn't move I couldn't move a finger, and I couldn't open my eyes. I cannot really know. But one thing that I know is that I was not supposed to wake up in the middle of this operation. So that's also why every time that I was trying to stay in the experience, it would end. Because it's not that I was knocked out, and then the experience would continue. I would just be able to open my eyes after, So, and this is a message that came also in other ways. So,
Okay, yeah, I think they also are invisible. So they don't want you to see them when they're invisible and they're around you. But then they do wipe your memory. And I imagine you have a lot more memory than what you, and myself, I know there's a lot of things I'd like to pull forward, from my subconscious and bring it up so I know what happened. But I've had some of these dreams, and I know you've had dreams too, and they actually take you into other dimensions, other locations, and actually make you feel like you're flying. And these are kind of like lucid dreams that will actually replay a lot of what happens. Have you had a lot of those lucid dreams, Dr. Lani?
Not really. I had a couple of dreams that somehow, in which I saw some sort of UFO and stuff, but they were not so vivid. But every time I was waking up from these dreams, I was anyway feeling like, I would have liked to go back. That's the feeling that I had. But no, I never found myself being in a dream and realizing that it was in a dream and be able to control it. I know that some people do it very easily, but I'm not able to do it, or for some reason. So yeah.
Yeah, they probably, what they do, they're still tweaking us. After some scientists say 350 million years of human, we've been recycled and go into reincarnation. That's where you get your past life experiences. And then they say, well, we were evolved, from, or made up in a lab from extraterrestrials, Anunnaki 60,000 years ago or whatever. But they still come back and they tweak us a little bit. That's why there's certain implants. Implants are carbon-based. Some implants are frequency-based, and those are metal implants. The carbon-based ones, they melt when they bring them out in the air. But that's just to tweak our DNA in our nervous system. What do you think about that? I mean, is there's something that you have an idea about past lives and reincarnation and ETs? Can you put that all together in one paragraph or sentence, Dr. Lani?
Well, let's say I agree on the fact that there has been intervention, and not just by the Anunnaki or reptilian, but by many races. And even those who investigate and did this kind of, let's say, intervention, they cannot really find an agreement on how many races. Some say 12, some say 22, or so on. So I'm not even trying to debate on that. I know, for instance, that some races like Pleiadians, Arcturians, Sirians, Andromedans, Orion beings, and Anunnaki reptilians, they are all involved. But there are more, definitely more than those. And as far as past life regression, or past lives, let's say, so for what I understood, and for me, it's not just a belief. I know it, but then you take it the way you want. Basically, some of us come from other places and have signed up to basically spend a certain number of their lives on planet Earth. Some have really got stuck in a loop inside this planet, almost like a prison planet. But some other, like me, for instance, I had the possibility sometime to get out of this cycle, go back to the stars in other star systems, like the Pleiadians, for instance, to clean up my soul from karma that I had accumulated or trauma or something, and then get back into the business. So some call these souls star seeds. Dolores Cannon also has a book called 3 Waves of Volunteers in the New Earth, in which she describes some of the last waves of these volunteers. She speaks about 3 waves starting after the Second World War. These are the new souls that have been incarnating in this planet, but there are some that are more ancient, and they, let's say, contributed to shape history in the good and the bad. Like each of us basically has experienced polarity, like has been the one victimized, but also the victimizer, and so on. So basically, I've always been fascinated by reincarnation, but before really diving into it and try to have experiences like with hypnosis or with meditation, and also getting some validation of the information I was getting, I couldn't really grasp how much this is fundamental for actually understanding the whole human experience, not just in relation with the extraterrestrials or cosmic beings, but just to understand the meaning of life and life after death and everything. So yeah, that's one of the abilities that I got. Let's say, basically, when I meditate with the person, I get information about some of the most traumatic lives, the ones that are still, let's say, affecting their behavioral patterns or their health or emotions and stuff. And sometimes I get some synchronicities to let's say validate some of these, because of course you try to do this kind of stuff, and then you sometimes want to know, yeah, but I'm really getting into something. Can I have a confirmation of some of it? So, and yeah, if you want, I can make examples of situations.
Yes. Yeah, I like for you to talk about synchronicities, because you talked about that with me before, and it was very interesting. And synchronicities are signs that are trying to lead us somewhere. and that's for sure. And after your experiences, and I think you have a certain experience, I think it's called, I'm trying to get the name right, Sananda's experience.
Sananda.
Yeah, yeah. That was some kind of, could you tell us a little bit about that, Dr. Lani?
Okay, so that, there is some connection to reincarnation, but okay, so my connection with Sananda is as follows. When I was still in Italy in 2001, basically a uncle of mine showed me a picture, and basically a friend of his during a pilgrimage was taking random shots at the sky, random photo of the sky with an analogical camera, so not a digital one. But when they developed the film, one photo was showing a face, while instead there should have been a sky. It's a face with a sort of blue aura around, and the face is very much looking like the face of what you would consider a Jesus kind, like long hair. So I show these pictures several times on other interviews, including some that I did with you. And anyway, so I never really knew what was that for many years, but I asked a scan of this picture. I took it with me in Belgium. I put it inside a book. And then 18 years later, I found back this book and I found back the picture. And I was like, wow, I wonder, what is this spirit or cosmic being? I didn't know, but I knew it was something particular. And then what happened is in March 2020, during the lockdown, I actually met with a new friend, a Belgian woman, middle-aged, who was like initiated in some meditation techniques in India and stuff like that. And she wanted to initiate me. So she agreed with a guru, a Swami, they call them, to basically give me an initiation remotely. And it works by intention, but he had to see my face. So basically, I went to her place. We were like in 4 in total. There were other two people. And the Swami saw my face. We just greeted each other. And then he said, okay, the initiation will work during a meditation. No? Okay, so we close our eyes. And as soon as I close my eyes, I see the same face, the one of the picture. But I saw basically the full figure of this spirit in lotus pose, meditating, wearing a white robe and a blue aura all around. And then the same spirit was standing up, was walking towards me, and next to him there was a sort of extraterrestrial being. It was looking like with a triangular head, a bit gray, green, and with some sort of, not horns, but something on top of his head, like 4 or 5 spikes, little spikes on his head. And he was wearing a robe, which was like purple, grayish. And when I was asking in my mind, who are you? I was hearing Metatron. And so Metatron is mentioned in the Book of Enoch. It's supposed to be some sort of archangel. And of course, when you think about an archangel, you would think about a beautiful blonde,
Right.
I don't know, but with wings maybe. But who knows? Maybe if these are extraterrestrial, they can look whatever, and they can project in our mind whatever they want. So
right, we call that shape shifting. And I know studying angels in this last book that angels can come in any form that you want. If you want to see an angel like a human being, they'll come to you as a human being. I've heard of stories like that. Or if you expect an ET to come to you in your bedroom, that's what you're going to see. But the angels come to you invisible, just like ETs. They're all extraterrestrial, and they all can be invisible. But those synchronicities that you're talking about is really important, and it makes a connection. Why do you think that they're following you still to this day, Dr. Lani?
Yeah, just one thing, because
Okay,
to close the story, the interesting thing that convinced me that my experience was actually like real is that the woman that was doing the initiation when she opened her eyes after the meditation, she told me that she saw the same spirit Sananda. That's how he introduced himself to her, not to me. Basically, she saw him dressed in purple with a purple robe, and she saw him basically walking down a crystal staircase that formed behind my back, and he went basically putting his hand on my shoulder and say, "This is my worker," to her. So when she told me that, it was kind of interesting. I said, "Okay, yeah, I also saw the same being. He was dressed in white, but Anyway, so yeah, why are they following me? So during some research, I figured out that Sananda is actually another, let's say, some consider Sananda like a sort of cosmic Christ or the ascended version of Jesus. And so there is a connection with Jesus, okay? And actually some connect Jesus and the so-called Christos race to Sirius B. So let's say that looking into my Akashic records by myself and also with other, let's say, assistants, I figured out that I'm connected to a lot of races, but also to Sirius. And in particular, I'm connected to the Christos race. I did past life regression under hypnosis, and I saw one life in which I was actually the cousin of Jesus. During the session, it was like, basically there is a guy called Joseph of Arimathea. The Catholic tradition associates Joseph of Arimathea to the person who actually took the body,
Yes.
the dead body of Jesus, and put it and wrap it in a shroud. And actually, the shroud is held in Turin, which is my birth town. And I actually saw this shroud in 2000 before going to Belgium, which is also the same period in which I got this picture, which is sort of interesting, yeah, so basically, I was one of the sons of Joseph of Arimathea in that life. Dolores Cannon closes a little bit the story, because in past life regression, as she described in a book called Jesus and the Scenes, she figured out that actually Joseph of Arimathea was the uncle of Jesus, was the brother of Mother Mary, and he was a rich man who was trading with his fleet all over the known world, and would take the young Jesus to learn from different masters, like in India, in Egypt, and even among Druids. So once I figured out that I had this connection, and actually after I had this experience in this initiation to this Shakti path meditation with my friend, I started having the weirdest experiences. Within three days, in another shamanic sound healing session, I had my arms getting paralyzed, and I felt a huge energy and my eyelids flickering. I saw some sort of portal opening. Again, I saw Sananda, and then I saw other beings. Some beings that I had seen during a past life regression, and some new one, like a mantis, for instance, and a bunch of spirit guides. That's what I thought they were. Right. After that, basically, my experience escalated.
Yeah, so I guess all these beings that you mentioned, Turians, Pleiadians, and other beings, they all get along together? I mean, they're not warlike, Dr. Lani?
Well, actually, even the guy, general of the Israel, ex-general of the Israeli forces called Haim Eshed, was also the founder of the space program in Israel, mentioned a galactic federation. And before him, there is this ex-minister of justice in Canada, Paul Hellyer, who also spoke about the Galactic Federation. So there are galactic councils that basically are supposed to keep harmony in different parts of the universe. And there is not just one, there are different ones, even in our solar system. And so, yeah, some of the contacts that I and other people that I know have is with representatives of these federations. And let's say, I know that some of these races, most of the races actually want to keep harmony and peace, and they're just observing us since humanity started, basically.
Right.
And their policy is non-intervention, because this is one of the rules of the universe, is basically to respect the free will of living creatures, living beings. And that's basically what separates, what distinguishes, let's say, negatively polarized beings with positively polarized beings. The negatively polarized beings, they try to trigger you. They try to manipulate your perception in such a way that you follow their agenda and not without exercising your free will. The good ones, they're just watching you, and sometimes they give you signs to try to keep you on your path if you tend to deviate too much. But even if you deviate from what is your original mission, or so to speak, they will never really completely try to stop you. They always give the final word to you. While beings like reptilians, for instance, or also some Orion beings, they are much more, they intervene in such a way that they can manipulate you to do what they want. And they can do it in different ways, both in the physical and in the astral. They can manipulate your dreams and so on. So they can also, using implants, they can modify your emotions. They can keep you in really some sort of mental loop, always low emotion.
Let me ask you these questions. Dr. David Jacobs, always mention him, always drop his name. Great guy. I mean, he's done a lot of research. He says that ETs, or hybrids, they walk amongst us. I've met some strange people. They talk to me and then they're gone, and then they talk to you, and then when you start getting close to who they might be, they kind of back away. Are these strange people? Are they really hybrids that are walking amongst us? And the other thing too, I heard that there's 4 species, like you're talking about, the reptilians, maybe the tall grays, the mantis, and there's humanoid ETs that are here on Earth. They said those 4, they're underground, they live underground, and they do the evil workings of corruption, evil, I guess, feelings. They spread throughout the planet. And these are the ones that we are fighting against, which you said it's good versus evil. And the evil ones are here on Earth. Do you agree with that, or can you add anything into that, Dr. Lani? I know it's a lot to unpack, but
what I can, let's say, what I know is that there are some of these, let's say, negatively polarized beings that are actually at the top of the pyramid in our society. In some cases, they are really there, like they use some technology, or also some innate abilities to shapeshift. But in some other cases, they just manipulate some specific individuals, especially the greedy ones and so on, from the other side. So there is a mix of these two aspects. Then about the underground, there is a lot of things going on underground in secret bases and so on. There have been whistleblowers like Schneider, for instance, who spoke out and died in very unusual circumstances. So nobody, I think, really nobody that has spoken out really know the depth of of the situation. But yeah, there is a lot going on, and I try to focus on the good ones because these are they try to improve my life and the life of the people they connect to. But sometimes, occasionally I had to deal with the bad ones, not in the physical plane, but let's say in astral plane or something. Or during sessions, for instance, it happened to me to see some of these entities. And before certain missions, let's say, sometimes I'm asked to do certain things, sometimes alone, sometimes with other people. And before some of these missions, I got attacked. And the attack is very interesting because it always triggers some physical issues to me. Like from one moment to another, I get a huge pain. Sometimes it's in both my kidneys, or it can be in my stomach, or headache. But it's something really like, something so sudden and so related to what I'm about to do that it's really not just a simple physical issue. So, and actually what I do normally is I go lying down, I close my eyes, I focus on my mind's eye, and I see the entity, and then I use some energetic practice to clean my field, and the pain disappears, if not immediately, within 2 or 3 minutes.
I just wanted to add about this underground stuff. People have heard underground explosions, especially here in the States and the Canadian border. And they've actually are spending $500 million to train US troops to fight underground. So something is amiss. So we don't know what's going on. There's been a lot of secrecy. We've been, misled for years, and our history has been misleading us. But to get into, I guess, the start of all this, you talked about Enoch, and of course, Enoch. You have, a lot of different people who back then lived to be 1,000 years old. I think they were extraterrestrial to start with. Noah, was probably an extraterrestrial, but they were the good ones, like you're saying. You feel the same way, Dr. Lani?
Yeah, definitely. If they weren't extraterrestrial, they were definitely in contact with the extraterrestrial. But let's say, especially the Old Testament is whenever they refer to Elohim or some of these, or God or whatever, it's always actually some sort of extraterrestrial. Like there is one guy who is called Mauro Biglino, who used to be a translator for the Vatican, and is an expert. I mean, is an expert of ancient Hebrew, and he reads the original texts, and so it tells this aspect. He reveals this in great detail. But some like him look at the Bible and see everything negative. All this interaction with ETs seems to be with some race which want to, let's say, control humanity and stuff like that. Some disagree with this view, and definitely in the New Testament, the wind changed, because Jesus, for instance, was definitely not a negatively polarized entity, and he was also connected to ETs, as also, for instance, Dolores Cannon pointed out in her books.
Yeah, he was a light person. Okay, let's. I want to move on here because I know there's so much and I want to try to train your mind as much as possible in this time period. The Akashic records. I know that I'm not even. You've explained it to me once or twice, but could you tell everybody what's the Akashic records all about and how far back does it go, Dr. Lani?
Well, the Akashic records is an energy field that stores the history of consciousness in the universe. And basically every thought, every action, every idea of every living individual in the universe, in all dimensions, in all timelines, is stored in this field. In the book, they refer to it as the book of, in the Bible, they refer to it as the book of life. Plato, the famous philosopher, spoke about the world of ideas that he called hyperoranium. So it's all the same concept. So think about the cosmic version of internet, which basically you can access not through a browser, but through your own consciousness, through spiritual tools like meditation, hypnosis. You can use a pendulum and ask questions, yes or no. You can also, there is also people who prefer to do it within a, let's say, more shamanic setting with music, or with using some kind of psychedelics like ayahuasca, for instance. My way has been to experiment with hypnosis first, and also with meditation, and it's rewarding. And there are people like they study reincarnation, like at the university, in the School of Medicine of the University of Virginia, for instance. They study children that have some memory of past life, typically the immediately previous life. but then you can really train yourself to access these memories. You cannot access everything, and I mean, it's not that you will see, you know, a full life from start to finish with all the details. Typically, there are only you only access certain memories which are relevant for you, for your mission in this life, and some unresolved trauma. For instance, you have been killed in some life in a certain situation, or you have, I don't know, you've done something wrong to somebody. It's always related to karma or to some imbalance, let's say, that you have to resolve. Yeah, and so the first life I saw actually was with a meditation experiment. I was reading a book called Akashic Records by Sandra and Taylor, I think, something like that. And she was suggesting a meditation exercise with a visualization. And I did the exercise. And then at a certain moment, I asked in my mind, okay, what was the last, my last life on Earth? And I want to know the profession, the name, the surname, and the date of death. So as soon as I finish my question, let's say, I see an image forming in my head in which I see two soldiers with a helmet, looking like during the World War, first or second. And then I see Charles Dempsey, which was the surname, Dempey, Sey, and then 1941. So it turned out that there is a US colonel who was not an historical person, because you couldn't find it in history book. You only find in website like Find Grave that store, you know, the data of all the Americans that lived during the last 300 years, and called Charles Adam Dempsey, and he died in 1941. So and that was an interesting outcome for the first experiment I did. Of course, I did many more, and also looking into cosmic lives. And sometimes, you know, I get, you know, crazy synchronicities. And I don't know, for instance, once I connected to a being that looked like a humanoid, but with a lion head, completely white. And he told me that he's a version of me in 12th dimension, and it's called Dion. And then I get out of the park where I was meditating, and I turn in a street that I normally don't take, and there was a shop of antiquities selling old stuff. There were two windows, and in each one of the windows there was the head of a lion. There was like a sculpture with the head of a lion, white. So what's the chance that after a situation like that, I mean, in a matter of a few minutes, after having connected to some being that tells you something, and asking in my mind, okay, I would like to have some sort of validation, then you find not just one, but two windows with lion heads.
Well, let's kind of close this out. We're just coming down the last few minutes. I want to have you unpack this idea. Let's mention synchronicities, and let's mention we're going from a 3D to a 5D from what I heard. And then there are physiological problems that we have. I feel energy sometimes in my chakras, kind of made me upset in my stomach. Could you tell us about synchronicities moving from 3D to 5D and how you might feel physiologically, Dr. Lani?
Well, of course, if you are in a process in which you are trying to align with your higher purpose, and you're more connected to the, let's say, to the other world and to higher frequencies, you will also receive more messages, and it's up to you then to try to recognize the signs. So the more you align, the more you recognize the sign or the synchronicity, if you want. And typically, these are little tips that the universe, whatever the universe is, guardian angels or cosmic beings or whatever, they want to give you, or higher self. So they just give you some suggestion to go in certain direction, or not to go in certain direction, or, you know, or to meet a person or something like that. And yeah, so it's all about you know, realigning with your soul purpose, and keeping your vibration high. So you know, you stay clean, you eat clean, possibly as vegan as possible. I know that many will disagree.
You'll feel less physiological effects of it. Okay, we're going to be closing the show out, Dr. Lani. I knew this was going to go fast, and you have so much to tell us. I'm going to have you back, and maybe I'll be doing a 2-hour segment before long. And so we will get in a lot of material. I want to thank everybody for joining us, just like the tag on the bottom says. Thank you all. You've been listening to the United Public Radio Network, FM 105.3 and 107.7 Global from beautiful New Orleans. Strange Reality with Dave Emmons, and our producer is Michelle. And Dr. Lani was our guest, and a great guest. He is a rocket scientist, so he knows both the actual on the street with the UFOs, and he also knows consciousness and spirituality, and he knows the scientific terms with it. Thank you, Dr. Lani, for joining us.
Thanks
Good
so
night,
much.
all. Thank you.
Good night.